What's up, guys? Today we are going to keep it kind of shorter and sweet. Had some time today, so I wanted to sit down and just pump out some more content for you guys. Just give you some stuff to think about if you're kind of on the edge in terms of starting your pest control business. You may either be working for a company currently, or you may be looking to just start. You don't know where to begin, how to start a pest control business, what it takes, and why you should or shouldn't get into the business. We're not going to discuss necessarily why you wouldn't decide to start your own business or get into the pest control industry, but specifically we're going to talk about why I decided to start my own business ultimately, why I chose the pest control industry, and what kind of pulled me toward that field. There's so many different fields that we can go after at the end of the day, especially in the service industry. You could be a plumber, you could be an electrician, you could do HVAC, you could do, I'm sure I'm forgetting some, like electricians and stuff like that. There's all these different fields at the end of the day, just within, the service sector that you could pick. Why pest control of all of them? And to keep that specific answer short and sweet, the main reason why I chose the pest control industry out of all these different industries was simply because of a couple things. One, education requirements. Two, cash, how much cash you would need to actually start a business. Three, how quick and not necessarily quick and easy, but how quick you can scale a pest control business. And then obviously, the freedom and all that stuff that we all go for. But the main reason for me was education and cash needed to start a company. So first and foremost, of course, those of you that do not know me, my journey, I started my business back in 2020 during COVID. I've been in the pest control industry now for about 6 years, roughly, 5 or 6, going on 6 years now. And I did all sorts of things. You can even look on this YouTube channel. I tried all sorts of different types of businesses, starting my own little side hustles, trading stocks, this and that and the other. And I do love trading stocks still today, but just all my capital's tied up in this pest control business. That's a different topic for a different day. But one of my main things was I could not stand the idea of college. Back when I was in high school, I had a girlfriend who, really pushed me, and, I was taking AP courses, the advanced placement college courses, all this stuff where, I was set up to do pretty well in college. I went into college, and within 6 weeks, I was like, this is BS, this is a waste of time, not to mention waste of money. And, I could be making money versus, spending my money on these BS classes that have nothing to do with, I think I was going for an accounting degree. And I was like, one, this isn't even a passion of mine whatsoever. I don't see really how I can scale it outside of starting my own business, which would, of course, take lots of time, years, money, etc. And not to mention, I don't want to do school for another 4+ years. So I was like, you know what, I'm done. After 6 weeks, I was done, quit college. Fast forward to when I moved to Texas, I met my now wife, because of course when I dropped out of college, my girlfriend who I had during high school did not really see that as, kind of like boyfriend or future husband material, jokes on her at the end of the day. But I met my future wife, found out she had family here in the Dallas, Texas area. We moved down literally after less than 6 months of dating, because, that's who I am. I'm a quick decision maker. I believe everything happens for a reason. I knew growing up, I was going to live in the South. Florida was kind of my destination that I had in mind, but I knew, Florida, Texas, maybe Arizona, some southern state, that's warm, because I hate cold weather. I knew I was going to move there, and met my wife. We moved down in 2018. And from there, I kind of struggled in terms of finding my footing with a career. I was trading stocks full-time the first probably 30 to 90 days roughly that we lived down here. That was just not sustainable. I would have some days where I would do over $1,200 in profit. Then we'd have other days where we would do, $800 in losses. It was just way too up and down, and very, very stressful. It brought on one of my first major, panic attack. Now that I know that I have panic attack disorder or whatever they want to call it, it was one of my first major, panic attacks that I had. It lasted for about a month. And from there, I was like, I gotta find a job. I know why, this is going on in my head is because I'm stressing out over money. I need to get a job. Then I joined a garage door company in the summer, in my first summer in Texas. if you know anything about Texas, it's blazing hot in the summer. And I joined up with a local garage door company. The money sounded great. Come to find out, it's great because you literally work like, I don't even know, let's see, you'd work 10 to 12 hour days, 6 days a week, so about 60 to 80 hours a week essentially. You had to sell, which selling wasn't, a big deal for me or anything, but you had to do this, you had to do that, you had to work 10, 12 hours a day. Just all this stuff that I was like, not about, especially in the summer. So, from that standpoint, it's not that I'm lazy, obviously being an entrepreneur, you can't be lazy, but I was like, if I'm going to put this much, time, effort, etc. into something, it's got to be something that I can enjoy, not wake up every day wanting to kill myself, which was at one point where I was at, which is when I finally quit that job because I was like, I can't do this another day. Like, I just can't. So I quit that job. Literally, it was the shortest job I ever had. It was something like a month and maybe not even a month and a half, probably, 4 to 5 weeks. And I felt bad because, like I said, that was the shortest job I ever had. Every other job I've been at, bare minimum, like a year or two, worst case scenario. Even my very first job as a bag boy at a grocery store, I was there for like two going on 2.5 years, from like the age 15 and a half, 16 years old up until I was like 18 to 19 years old, before, going into college and all that other stuff. But back to the topic at hand, being in Texas, I quit that job, got into a mosquito company because I saw an ad for a local mosquito company, one of the mosquito franchises. It was like Mosquito Joe or something like that. The pay didn't necessarily look great or anything, but I knew that my grandfather, had a pest control business in the Midwest. I've mentioned that on this channel probably a couple times now. And I was like, well, if he's, 70 years old and doing it still, it can't be that bad. And that job was not bad at all. Like I said, the pay just wasn't that great. That there wasn't really any benefits. The guy had really just started. It was like their second full season since he purchased this franchise. So they were still very small, didn't have any benefits really, no paid time off. There really wasn't much advancement there. Sorry, I got some hiccups. There wasn't really much advancement opportunities. Plus, of course, being a mosquito company, it's seasonal. So you'd have a period of 4 months off per year. And I was just like, I can't do this. So that was another job that I essentially used to leapfrog up, build my resume to get a job as a pest control technician for Terminex, one of the big national companies. And of course, being a big company, Terminex had, pretty good benefits in all honesty. They had a good time off, a good amount of time off. I think if you combine your sick leave and vacation, it comes out to roughly 4 weeks a year, 4, maybe 5 weeks a year. Nothing crazy, but pretty good. The pay, I liked how their pay plan was set up. It is very easy for them to kind of screw you and manipulate their numbers and stuff like that. But overall, as long as, like my first branch manager said, as long as you know how to play the game, you can, for the most part, be ahead of them in terms of that. So I'm not even going to get into all of that BS. But overall, the pay was very good. I had, a period of time where I had health issues and I had to take 3 months off, almost 2.5 to 3 months off from Terminex, and I still made almost $60,000 that year. So just to put in perspective, I was making good money. I was selling a lot too, which you don't really sell as the technician. You can, but usually you turn in a lead and then they send the salesman out. If he sells it, you get a commission off of that as well. I had a lot of those. That helped boost my income there. But overall, it wasn't a bad job. They just overworked you. They always found something to complain about. It was a very negative culture, which from what I hear is very common for the company, but there are branches apparently where at least they claim, that it's branch to branch. Some branches are better than others, which I'm sure there are some good branches. Otherwise, the company would crumble, obviously, if it was just totally toxic and negative. But our branch specifically, even though it was great money, I just didn't really see a long-term future there. They did not like that I would, speak common sense. There was a lot of things there that they could have changed that would have helped both the company, the technician, and the customer. And they just, wouldn't hear it. You're just a technician at the end of the day. They acted like they cared about, your input, but they really didn't at the end of the day. So from there, the good thing about working for these pest control companies, which you have to do to start a pest control company, is work under a certified applicator as a pest control technician, you have to first get, in Texas at least, you have to go through the apprenticeship, which is short. You have to do like 80 hours total of training, 40 OJT, 40 hours of OJT, and then 40 hours of class work. And then from there, you can become a technician. You have to be a technician under a company for at least 1 year. After that, you can take a test to become a certified applicator. Once you become a certified applicator in pest control and termite, you could then start a pest and termite control company. Technically, you could just get certified in one or the other, but your company would be very limited. Say you did just the pest control certified applicator exam and you passed, you'd only be able to do pest control. If you just did termite, you'd only be able to do termite. So I took them both. It was like 3 exams total for that. And coincidentally, leading up to the week of my exam, it was, in the heart of COVID, they pulled me in and they're like, we're letting you go. And I was like, oh, that's a coincidence. Okay. Wow, I really need to pass my tests now. And from there, passed the test, thankfully, God willing, passed the test and started the company. Now, why did I decide to start the company? I decided to start the company instead of sticking with, not just Terminix, but any other pest control company, because the number one reason was, one, the little amount of education you needed. Like I said, didn't have to do college or anything like that. You simply just needed the experience, pass a couple exams, boom, you could start a company. 2, cash needed to start the business. I literally started my business with my 401k, which had less than $5,000 in it at the time from Terminix, and a car that I had about $7,000, $8,000 or less in equity. And I sold that car. It was a completely paid for car, so I got all the cash from that car. And I used that cash to start my business, which included buying our first truck. We had to put, I think, like $1,000 or $2,000 down because, I had no proof of income. My wife had literally just started her job about a month before I got fired. So everything did happen, perfect timing. Literally, her starting a job, me getting fired, me passing the exam, etc. It worked out crazy well, at least. But overall, the money that I had wasn't tremendous or anything. I had, if I were to add it all up, probably somewhere around $10,000 to $12,000 to start my business. That included paying our rent and utilities and stuff like that early on. We had our daughter that we had to still, pay child care and stuff like that for. My wife's income, we saw a little bit of it, but when you factored in child care and this and that, I still was responsible for paying like rent at the end of the day. So, when you take out a couple months of rent that I had in a separate bank account to make sure, hey, we're covering what I call the 4 walls, your utilities, your food, your shelter, essentially. I really only had about $3,000 to $5,000 to like actually get the business going. And from there, we started a couple very, very thin Google ads. We started with Google Local Services, which thankfully got us through the winter, and then the spring exploded, and we got tons of customers from Google Local Services. I credit a lot of our success to Google Local Services early on, not so much anymore because the pricing's gotten out of control, but early on at least, we were paying such a small amount per lead, anywhere between, about $20 to $30 per lead, that it made it very easy to kind of blow up, so to speak, blow up our business early on and replace my income. So we went over, not very much education needed, not very much capital needed. The next thing was, like I was kind of transitioning to scalability. So what I love about pest control is it's not, rocket science at the end of the day. All you have to do is run the numbers. And if the good thing about working for another pest control company, especially one that, is very transparent about what your numbers are, like a Terminix, for example, you know exactly how many customers you have on a route, what your customers are literally paying for every service. They were almost way too transparent as a company, in all honesty, because they make it where you can literally go start your own business, essentially. But it's very easy from there when you start your company to know, okay, once I get to this level, I need to be hiring an employee, and I need to hire them before I get to this level. That way I have time to train them, have time to still get acquisitions, kind of blend everything together. That way when we put that employee in a truck, they're off and running, essentially. I wouldn't say it's simple to hire, obviously, but it is easy in terms of there's not all of this crazy, like you have to map it out just 30 different ways on how to scale enough to get an employee. It's simple. Just do the math on what you need your recurring income to be per employee, factor all your employee costs, boom, then you know that you're ready to hire somebody. Now, of course, it can get a little more complicated in terms of hiring salespeople, CSRs, this and that and the other, but in terms of hiring your technicians who are ultimately, driving your business at the end of the day, it's not very, quote unquote difficult, so to speak. You just got to know the numbers, got to know, what you need for that recurring income and make it happen. And speaking of, scalability, the speed that you can scale, if scalability is even a word, it doesn't sound like a word, but how quick you can actually scale your pest control business, I like as well. It all depends on, of course, one, how much money you have to throw at advertising and stuff like that. But if you're getting a ton of reviews on your Google business page, you can start going up those rankings relatively quickly because a lot of companies don't put enough emphasis on that. And from there, you can start getting 10, 15, 20, 30, sometimes 40 calls per month. And, if you're converting at least, let's just say 50% for an easy number, you're getting 30 calls a month. That's 15 new clients a month. And let's say out of 15 new clients, at least, 10 of them, about 2/3 of them are going to sign up on recurring. That's 10 customers a month. That's 120 customers a year. Let's say you have 120 customers a year signing up with an average contract value of, we'll just say $600. That is now $72,000 of recurring income per year. So within 1 year, not including any advertising money spent, you could literally replace most people's income and then some, because I know a lot of pest control companies only pay like $13, $15, $17 an hour. So I like the fact that you can replace your income very quickly. I replaced my income literally within our first 3 to 4 months of starting the business. And then everything from there, we've just been growing ever since, reinvesting into the company, et cetera, et cetera. And I like that. I like that it's, you can scale very quickly. You can decide at any time when to quote unquote pull the plug. Say you wanted to be a one-man show, you had a goal of, once I hit 100,000 or 150,000 or whatever the case may be per year, I'm going to pull the plug on all marketing at that point. I'm not really going to worry about getting new customers. You can literally create the business any way you want. There's no way that it's going to get too big. There's no way it's going to stay small unless if, I guess you just are horrible at running your business and you get bad reviews and you don't do good work. Obviously, it can fail. It's not just bulletproof. But, overall, it's very easy to kind of control your growth, essentially. So, and speaking of, the ability to grow and, the inability to fail or, lack thereof, that leads me to the next point, which is, this business is almost recession-proof. I hate using the words recession-proof because nothing ultimately is recession-proof. Obviously, people that have like termite issues, rodents getting into their home, this and that and the other, they're obviously going to have to get that fixed ultimately. So just like with plumbers, if you're, some pipe burst or something like that, it has to be fixed. Obviously, service businesses are to a certain degree recession proof. I just hate using that term because your sales growth and this and that are still obviously going to be affected. But in terms of going out of business, this is pretty much a recession proof business. Again, assuming that you're running your business the way it needs to be ran, taking care of business, all of that, taking care of your customers, all of that stuff. It's a recession-proof business. Like I was mentioning, people are always going to have termites. They're always going to have rodents getting into their homes. There's going to be wives and children that are deathly afraid of spiders, this and that and the other. They're always going to look for a pest control company to call at the end of the day. And that, to me, is the most attractive thing. I'm a very safe guy when it comes to investing my money, where I want to put my money, where I want my money to grow. I would not be the type to start a tech company, a bank, anything like that. Anything that is very, very touchy, really based on the economy. I could never be a real estate agent, stuff like that, just because I like getting rich for sure. I don't want to get rich quick. I don't want, I don't even necessarily need to be like the richest guy in the world, anything like that. I just want to get rich for sure. I want to grow wealth, and not just any wealth, but like generational wealth that like when my family, 2-3 generations from now, when they're putting me 6 feet in the ground, they'll be able to say, that's a bad motherfucker right there. Like, he took care of business. He built an amazing business, or maybe, I can't see the future or anything, but maybe multiple businesses that, have caused our family to never not need to want for anything and not to ever have to worry about money again, essentially. So, that's kind of, get off that soapbox. That's kind of like why I chose this industry. Is it the only industry I ever plan on starting a business or running a business in? No, but I think it's a great business overall for really anybody, as long as you have at least $5,000 to $10,000. And let's be real. I mean, if you don't have $5,000 to $10,000, you surely have a couple credit cards, or you can get a personal loan, something like that, to start your business in. And the good thing is, like I said, you have to, most states, you have to have at least a year underneath another pest control company before you can start a business anyways. So, you have 1 year to prepare. So there's really no reason for you to not be able to stash up a quick $5,000 or $10,000 in a year. We're talking $500 to, less than $1,000 per month. Maybe if you have a car payment, get rid of that car payment and drive a beater for a year. You'll, at the end of the day, if you want to start this business, you'll sacrifice and you'll do whatever it takes. You'll find the $500 to $1,000 a month to invest, or not invest, but to set aside so you can invest in starting your business in the future. Because I really think if you're on the edge, you definitely need to just do it. I always tell everybody, everything that I do because I don't want to be on my deathbed just wondering, like, God, what if, like, I did this? What if I did that? Like, how would my life be different if I did that? Like, we all are going to have what ifs at the end of the day, but like, I want to be able to control as many what ifs as possible. Like, I don't want to die, get up there, and God be like, yeah, you were great, but this is what you could have been, or like anything like that. Like, that's just kind of, how I look at everything, especially when it comes to like business, finance. I'm getting to be like that, like with my family now. I'm trying to at least focus a lot on like family time. I'm watching my daughter, like she's already 3.5, almost 4, and like I'm trying to focus on that, and our daughter to be, who's coming in June. Like, I'm trying to juggle all this stuff so I, can limit all of those what ifs essentially. But and that's the beauty of being the business owner is like, if you can tell that there's certain parts of your life that are not suffering but are lacking, and you need to take a step away from work for a little bit, you can pause everything. Like, sure, your business may not grow at the rate that it was temporarily, but there's seasons to this stuff out here. And the perks of being the business owner is you can decide, especially whenever you get to a point where you're making more than enough money to, pay your bills and everything else, you can be the one to decide, I need to take a week away. I need to take a month away, maybe, whatever the case may be. And that's what I like the most, doing it for the freedom, not doing it for the money. The money, obviously, you need money to buy freedom ultimately, but freedom is what, I'm doing this for. And that is why I decided to start a pest control company. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, definitely make sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, I don't know if you can give a thumbs up to a podcast, but if you haven't rated the podcast, please give us a 5-star rating on the podcast. I greatly appreciate that. And then if you're new to the channel and you've if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're new to the podcast and this is your first podcast and you listen to the whole thing, definitely subscribe, follow the podcast. I greatly appreciate that. And of course, if you're not already following us on TikTok, link for that should be in the description box on YouTube, and then in the show notes of the podcast as well. We're trying to get to 1,000 TikTok followers. Once we get to 1,000 TikTok followers, we'll be able to do TikTok live Q&As over there as well for you all. But, of course, if you have any questions or anything, drop them in the comments on YouTube. You can also join our totally free Facebook group if you're looking to start a pest control business, or you're already a pest control business owner and you're looking to network with a bunch of like-minded people. We have about 30 of us in there already, and we also have that totally free Discord group chat as well. But of course, appreciate you all tuning in. If you have any questions about the pest control business, feel free to drop them in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next episode of the podcast or the next video on YouTube. Take it easy, everybody.